Hello, Happy New Year. Unfortunately, we do need to get rolling right off the bat. So here is a notes video on biomes, and we'll review a little bit as we go. All right. Okay. So lesson objectives: define a biome, explain how climate affects terrestrial biomes, and give examples of terrestrial biomes. Identify freshwater and marine biomes and relate them to sunlight and nutrients. All of this is stuff that, frankly, you need to know. It's going to help you in earth science next year in ninth grade. It's going to help you in biology in 10th or 11th grade. It's going to help you understand life, and it's on your EOG. So it's all stuff you need to know. Aphotic zone, remember A means not, okay? Photo means light, okay? And ic means having to do with. So aphotic zone means not having to do with light. Photic zone means having to do with light. Okay? Terrestrial means earth or land. Marine means ocean. Freshwater means non-salt water, so lake, stream, pond. Climate, you should know. Biome, you should have an idea about. Aquatic means that it's water. All right, so the only thing from here that I'm going to ask you to copy down is the title. Okay, 1.5 biomes. Actually, you don't really need to 1.5 because it's chapter 8 in your digital textbook. There we go. All right, so you can just put biomes. This is all still under ecology, though. Okay, I'm going to skip this. If you look up study jams, you can find the video probably on YouTube, or you can go to the study jams website and look it up. All right, a biome is a group of similar ecosystems with the same general abiotic factors and primary producers. Okay, so let's go ahead and highlight that. You need to write that down. So you can pause while you write that and then unpause. All right, so remember, an ecosystem is all the living and all the non-living things. Okay, so it's all the abiotic and all the biotic factors. So a biome, you're going to have all the general things that are abiotic factors. So you might be mostly rock. It might be a rocky desert, or it might be a sandy desert, or it might be a beach where there's ocean water and sand, or it might be a forest. Okay, but you're going to have those general factors, the same amount of similar amounts and kinds of H2O, similar and kinds and types of air, moisture, humidity, all that stuff is going to be generally about the same. Rainfall, for example, is a big one. But you're also going to have the same primary producers. Okay, so remember, the primary producers are going to be the first thing in the food chain that is making energy. So they're usually going to be plants or something photosynthetic. Biomes can be terrestrial or aquatic. And that's important to know. This one picture is a forest in South Carolina near the ocean. So it has a wet climate because it's near the ocean. So there's a lot of humidity that comes from the ocean, and then that humidity becomes rain, and so it's a wet climate. This other picture on the right is a desert in Death Valley. Death Valley is in the rain shadow of mountains. And so what that means is as the air masses move up the mountains, the rain condenses and it precipitates on one side of the mountain. And then the air continues over the other side of the mountain. Well, it's already lost all of its moisture. So it's dry air. So on the ocean side of the mountains, it's usually green and pretty and all that stuff. But you're more likely to have a desert on the other side of the mountain because the air lost all its moisture going up the other side. Okay, here's an example. So here you have, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but you have the warm, moist air moving up the mountain. As it moves up, the air condenses and cools. And as air cools, the molecules get closer together and it squeezes out the moisture and it rains on this side of the mountain. Okay. Then on the other side, the dry air keeps going. And that's why they call it a rain shadow. It's not a real shadow, but you have rain on one side and no air on the other. Or I'm sorry, you have rain on one side and no rain on the other. All right, terrestrial biomes. So that's our subheading. So we're going to write that down. Terra means land. Terrestrial biomes can range from the Arctic tundra to the tropical rainforest. They don't have to be cold. They don't have to be hot. They don't have to be dry or wet, but they can be all of those things. Okay. So in a terrestrial biome, the primary producers are usually plants. In fact, they're probably always plants in terrestrial biomes. Plant types are determined by the temperature and moisture. Up in the frozen tundra, you're probably going to have more. You might have some shrubs and maybe some trees, but you're going to have mosses. You're not really going to have grasses. In more temperate biomes, like where North Carolina is, you're going to have more grasses and weeds and stuff. Okay. Tropical rainforest, temperate grassland, tundra, those are all examples of terrestrial biomes. All right, aquatic biomes. Now I could fill like an entire year with stuff about biomes. Okay, I am going over the very basics right now because that's kind of what I need you to know. When you go to Earth and Environmental Science in ninth grade, which is the science that every ninth grader takes, then I just need you to know some basics so that when the teacher says, what are the environmental considerations of the tundra? Well, you need to know what a tundra is. Okay, so just the basics. All right. An aquatic biome can be freshwater, okay, or it can be marine, which is going to be ocean water. So when you hear the word marine, you should think salty H2O. The primary producers in aquatic biomes are usually phytoplankton. They float at the surface. Plankton means floating. Phyto means plant. So these are floating plants. They're not really plants. They're protist. But, they didn't know that back when they were naming these things. So these phytoplankton are usually bacteria, photosynthetic bacteria, or algae. What determines the type of aquatic biome is the amount of sunlight and the dissolved substances in the water. So if there's a lot of salt and minerals and stuff dissolved in the water, then you probably have a marine ecosystem, salt water. But if there's not a lot of stuff dissolved in it, then it's probably freshwater. Okay. Now, the top 200 meters get sunlight. Okay, that's called the photic zone. So I'm going to ask you to write that down. Below 200 meters, there is no sunlight. Okay, it just gets darker and darker as you go down. So we call that the aphotic zone. Food can drift down from the photic zone, or it can be made by chemosynthesis at the hydrothermal vents. The hydrothermal vents are down at the bottom of the ocean near fault lines. We'll talk more about that in a little while. Water near the surface has more dissolved oxygen than deeper water, and nearer the shore there are more nutrients. Okay. So let's get that down. All right, moving on. Not much more. Lakes are freshwater biomes. Ocean zones. Again, these are things that go hand in hand with the EOG. Intertidal is between the high and low tide. It has plenty of sunlight and nutrients. Organisms here must have adaptations for surviving the changing environment. So the intertidal zone, when you go to the beach, chances are you're sunbathing in the intertidal zone, somewhere between high tide and low tide. Okay. The pelagic zone is the open ocean. All right. And then the benthic zone is the bottom of the ocean. It's the ocean floor. So think benthic and bottom, they both start with B. All right, and again, there's a study jams for aquatic ecosystems, and you can look that up. And that's the lesson summary, but I think you already have any notes there that are relevant. And that'll bring us to ecosystems dynamics, and we'll talk about that next time. Have a good day. Stay curious.